Hey everyone, this is TJ from Rotogrinders and Own the Moment, here to break down the very first NFT drop in the new DraftKings marketplace. This first drop is all about Tom Brady, who is the face of the new autograph platform that has partners with DraftKings in order to bring this new NFT marketplace to life. There are 10 drops total taking place over the course of 2 days, starting tomorrow and also on Friday. So we've got 5 drops each day, every single hour, starting at 3 o'clock, ending at 7 o'clock. The prices range from $12 all the way up to $1,500. And as you can see, the price increases with each and every drop. If you want to go ahead and get involved, you can head on over to marketplace.draftkings.com. The drops will open 30 minutes before the start time, and you'll simply be able to click on the drop here and join the drop. I believe that you'll be able to make payments with either your credit card or your DraftKings balance. And then once you are able to make a purchase, the addition numbers will be randomly assigned from there. Now, of course, the next question becomes, what is my strategy here and should I purchase these NFTs? Over at Own the Moment, we have developed what we call the NFT value theorem to help calculate the value that an NFT could hold. And this is the speculative value multiplied by the digital value plus the utility. So let's dive into each of these from the perspective of the Tom Brady drop. On a speculative value standpoint, we've got 2 high-profile companies backing this in DraftKings and Autograph with Tom Brady. We have the promise of a future roadmap and a strong community built around it. So I think there's a lot to offer here in terms of the speculative future value of this. Digital value is really purely subjective. To me, these look pretty cool, but it's nothing groundbreaking. It's up to you to determine if you like the look of them or not. We also have the added value of the day 2 NFTs, which are signed by Tom Brady himself. And then we have the third piece, which is around utility. So these NFTs have digital utility in the fact that you will get access to the Autograph Discord, and they do not come with any physical utility at this time. Overall, I think it's a great opportunity to get involved in the first edition of a product developed by 2 major companies with a lot of credibility, and expect a lot of more from them in the future. We know that the Wayne Gretzky drop is going to be coming up next. For more depth information, you can go ahead, check out the otmnft.com website. We've got an article that dives even deeper into these NFT ratings. We'll certainly be getting in the drop ourselves and hope to see you guys there. Hey, everyone.
Going on Rotogrinders, Dean here at Dean 78904. That is the DFS handle around the industry. It's 5:30 on the East Coast, 2:30 West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. So of course, that means time's flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, it's a Grant Neefer. You might know him from such things as terrible movie takes. Oh, that's just me. That was our pre-show conversation. What's up, Grant? How are things in your world?
You suck, Dean.
But true or false, I think we were texting last night or the night before, and you cut off our text. It's like, I gotta go. I'm too busy. I'm watching Jungle Cruise.
That is correct. I watched it last night. It was delightful.
I mean, seriously, you're an adult male, and and again, if you enjoy it, have at it. Enjoy yourself. But you didn't really think that was going to be good, right?
I watch pretty much anything that The Rock is in, and it was absolutely delightful.
That's the thing. He's like the most delightful person, the most charming person. I don't like anything he does, basically.
You didn't like, what was it? Walking Tall or The Rundown?
I didn't see. I'm aware of both, but I don't believe I saw
Those are ones you should watch. Those were early days before he just started getting put in movies to carry the movie. Those were legitimately good movies.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
You didn't
fantastic.
watch Baywatch. Don't tell me you watched Baywatch and enjoyed it.
Oh, I did. It wasn't great. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for the ridiculous. That's kind of like Fast and Furious. You have to realize the ridiculousness of it and accept
that. One's fine. That one's fine. If you go in with the premise of it's going to be absurd, they give you absurdity. That one's fine.
Yeah, like Fast and Furious. After the second one, you're like, okay, now they're going to start getting ridiculous. Just accept that is happening, and don't take this seriously. And it's great.
I didn't see Jumanji for the record, but I can't imagine.
Oh, Jumanji was actually ridiculously good. It was so good.
What?
You didn't see the original? What is wrong with you?
We just read Devin. I'm assuming
you can't. Yes, they can hear me and see me. Dean, you haven't seen Jumanji?
Why would I see Jumanji?
Look, I know my list of things I gotta watch is long, but that's a crucial one, Dean. We don't have time for this, Dean.
You're talking it's a full slate.
It's a
We
full
really
slate.
don't have time for. But I mean, Rampage. Come on, I played the video game back in the day. But
Alex mentioning Mummy in here. Like, that's not really a rock movie. He was barely in it.
That was his first movie ever, though, I believe. Like, that's kind of his introduction to like outside of the wrestling.
I mean, it was his introduction. The Mummy, he was only in for like barely anything. Scorpion King was his introduction.
Your favorite actor, by the way, isn't Brendan Fraser your favorite actor?
Yes, he is. He's the best actor of our generation.
First of all, it's 2 generations ago. He's still acting, but he's not.
2 generations ago.
Whatever. He's not. The 2021 is not Brendan Fraser's year. Like, good for him. He's popped up on a few things here.
This is our generation.
No, he's maybe if you want to make an argument, say he's the greatest actor of the 90s, which is still wrong, but it's a better argument.
I mean, honestly,
he
he rolled out so much good stuff.
And With Honors is his best movie. You've never seen it. We don't have time for this nonsense, Grant. It's a 13 game slate on FanDuel. It's a 15 game slate on DK.
I'm just dipping. I'm gonna go watch George of the Jungle.
That's what killed his career, I believe. He did like 3 of those terrible movies. And they said enough of this guy. He just, he was
George of the Jungle, Bedazzled.
That one wasn't.
You say it killed
horrific.
his career, but he also had Blast from the Past in that time, and he had The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. Like, what killed his career, I think, was what was it, Monkey Bone?
Monkey Bone. Yeah,
although he's still ripping out good movies. Then he was in Crash right after that. Like,
Crash might be the worst Oscar-winning movie of my lifetime. It was fine, but it was not an Oscar movie. Whatever.
It's fine. It still got an Oscar.
What was the last time anybody's watched Crash?
You clearly know better than the Academy.
Come on. It was an ensemble movie that was fine, but it wasn't spectacular. And
man, Brendan Fraser ripped off a Nicolas Cage-esque amount of movies.
Is that a compliment? Or is that not a compliment? I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
It is a compliment because a lot of them were very good. It's very Nick Cage-esque. A lot of them were trash. A lot of them were great.
Yeah, there you go. Alex in the chat saying With Honors. And we had this conversation previously once off air because we talked about Brendan Fraser. I'm like, how could that be your favorite actor and you've never seen his best movie? With Honors with the great Joe Pesci.
I'm fairly certain it got horrible reviews last time we talked about it.
Yeah, it wasn't great for some reason.
This is a baseball show, darn it.
And yes, English Patient is probably worse than Crash. I haven't seen it before, shockingly. Tell us your least, any movie takes, fire movie takes, by all means, throw it in chat. What up, chat? Like, subscribe, turn on notifications.
With Honors got 17% by critics.
That's terrible. That's an egregious number. It's a good movie.
73% by the audience. Is it a comedy?
No, it's a drama. I mean, there's probably a few funny moments. And you assume it's a comedy because Joe Pesci isn't there because he has there's probably a few moments. It's been a while, but I remember liking it many years ago. Maybe it doesn't hold up. I don't know. But I think it's good. Maura Kelly, I want to say, is also in that. Does that sound
Dean, baseball.
Yeah. It's a 15-game slate on DK, 13-game slate as far as FanDuel. Of course, there's 2 doubleheaders going down, the Angels and the Blue Jays, and the Cubs Brewers playing doubleheaders tonight on DK. So this is one of those slates, man. Maybe this is why I'm hitting the stall button. I'm not really sure. We're here for the next 45 minutes. We've got plenty of time. And of course, whatever we don't talk about, the chat we'll bring up. They want us to talk about later on. Devin, he couldn't resist jumping on earlier. He was so upset about me not seeing Jumanji. What a weird take. But he'll come back later with all your questions. So we'll act on behalf of the chat, whatever we don't talk about or whatever you guys want us to focus on more. We're happy to do so. Last 10 minutes or so of the show. This is a weird slate for me, Grant, because I don't love any offense. I like some. And, Scherzer is the clear best pitcher. It's not the perfect spot, but it's a fine spot. There's not a lot to love. What's that?
Is he?
Well, as far as a skill set, you can't make any other. If you want to make
Gilbert.
an argument, no. So Gilbert, we're going to throw Gilbert in the Hall of Fame now? I
mean, we could.
I'm talking skill set. I like Gilbert too, and we'll talk about him, obviously. But when it comes from a skill set perspective, especially from a fantasy perspective, strikeouts, they matter. And Scherzer's got, 5% more strikeouts than the next guy, Sonny Gray. Erod at 28.9%, but Max Scherzer at 34.5% against a Philadelphia team that's without McCutchen. They're without your boy Rhys Hoskins. They're trying to win. They're going to push them as hard as possible because the Dodgers want to avoid that play-in game. They're still, I think, at this moment, not currently winning the NL West. I want to say the Giants are winning out there, and of course, Philadelphia on the other side. They're just ahead of Atlanta, I think, and there's no wild card chances there, as far as I can tell. Basically, you got to win that division. If you don't, you're not going to make the playoffs. So probably the two best skill pitchers, on the board facing each other. Extreme hitters umpire for the record.
Ooh, that makes things interesting.
It does make things. I mean, I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not, but it does.
No, it does. Like, honestly, I had close to 80% Scherzer.
So does everyone
now. Like, in Manea has got an extreme hitters umpire. Like, still think I will be with the field on Scherzer, but I may be locking in Gilbert now.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what we have as far as his umpire. Gilbert, of course, a good prospect there for Seattle.
I don't think we have one out yet for him. It's a new series, right?
It's yeah. Seattle not technically eliminated from the playoffs, but they have like a 1 or 2% math chance, I think. But who knows how hard they're going to push him? But I assume he'll be fine as well. Talk to me about Max and Nola, and nobody's going to play Nola, which is interesting. I think, at least I know who wants to pick in this Dodger lineup, but it is somewhat weekend. Of course, it's a great lineup nonetheless, but it is somewhat weekend with Mookie Betts got scratched. So note that. All right, Scherzer, tell me why you're playing 80%, give or take.
I don't know if I am anymore, but I mean, Scherzer's just the best pitcher on the board by a pretty decent margin. He's very good. Worries about his pitching later into the games are kind of alleviated to an extent, because the last one he went 109 pitches. The guy's got a 35% K rate on the season. He doesn't walk guys. He'll give up some bombs. This Philly team is overall probably a slightly below average strikeout matchup, but not by much. Scherzer's just very, very good. And that's pretty much it. But I mean, honestly, Gilbert's now the better play with that umpire.
Also, Weather Edge is giving 124 games there in Philadelphia. We're seeing a bump of homers at 35.4%. So, I mean, look, it's not a great umpire, and it's an environment for homers in 85 degrees.
Does wind affect it that much over in Philly?
10 miles per hour, basically to center, left center. Bumps and runs at 22.5% as well. Bump in ERA at 23%. Of course, that has nothing to do with who's pitching on a given day. It's just the sample is the sample, and that's that. But, again, if you're looking to poke warts outside of like ownership on Max, which I get that too, if you don't want to be at the field, which what do we have Max at? Probably like 50%. I'm
45.
guessing.
It'll probably be closer to 50. You can afford him pretty easily on the slate.
Mm-hmm.
Manea and Nola, like, not really on the same level as him. And like, obviously Nola, much worse matchup. So I might be fading Scherzer.
Well, that's the thing, is that you got to roster two pitchers, and we're going to talk about it. There's not a lot that like really pop. And I know you like Gilbert. I'll let you talk about him in a second, obviously. Just want to pull up this lineup as far as the actual, K potential here for the Dodgers, for Scherzer against Philadelphia, pulling up the old plate IQ. Let's extend it back to the last two seasons. And it's not the greatest strikeout matchup. Like Gregorius at 13%, Torres at 7.2% as far as striking out. Segura, Harper, Herrera. It's a terrible strikeout matchup. 17.4% as far as strikeouts collectively. If you stretch it back to last year, that's really bad. Probably the worst one on the slate. I haven't went through every single team. Max is the best, strikeout guy. And of course, they're not facing Max in all those at bats. But again, if you want to poke holes, ownership, hitters, umpire, not bad in pitching environment as far as weather, and a lineup that doesn't strike out. So yeah, it's something to think about. But the counter to that is, okay, now what? And that's what I'm asking. Now what?
Gilbert.
Okay, you got to roster two. FanDuel, of course, you roster one. And
Gallon.
Gilbert. Yeah. Okay. Well, tell me why you like Gilbert first.
I mean, Gilbert has just been very good since he's come into the league this season. He's sitting at a close to 33% K rate. No, 28% K rate. Sitting around 4 xFIP over the course of the last month. He's been better. He's going up against Texas. While Texas may not be the highest projected strikeout lineup, they are bad. They are very bad. They're playing in a pretty decent pitcher's ballpark over in Seattle. Texas, again, is bad, just very bad. Gilbert's pretty solid to both sides of the plate. He strikes out righties at a much higher clip, but he's been pretty solid overall to lefties. Hasn't given up a ton of extra base hits. Probably due for some negative regression that way, but he's just been a very good pitcher so far, and he's going to have still probably a long enough leash. They're still in the playoff hunt. I know that they're not not a great chance, but they might let Gilbert get up to 100 pitches if he's pitching well, which I would most likely assume he's going up against an absolutely atrocious Texas team that a lot of these guys don't really walk at a huge clip. And a lot of the guys that do walk at a huge clip, according to Play IQ, not a big sample size outside of Holt. Like Peters, Martin, not really given into that. And just overall, they're saying the projected lineup is 280 WOBA and a 128 ISO. So talking about matchups on the board, compared to Philly, this is a drastically better matchup. Compared to the Dodgers, this is a drastically better matchup. Cleveland, their lineup's been kind of all over the place over the course of the last few months, but still probably a below average strikeout lineup with the current lineup that they're rolling out. And there's a few high strikeout bats, but they're at the bottom. Manet has been fantastic, but this lineup isn't nearly as bad as Texas, in my opinion. So we get through that, and then we go all the way down to like Alex Wood has been inconsistent throughout the course of months. So you're just looking at the top end of spend ups, and Gilbert's the one that just has the best matchup and pretty close to the same stuff. I mean, you can make the argument for Erod. That Tampa Bay lineup, though, is way better, and Erod's been pretty wild recently, walking 4 guys in each of his last 2 starts, even though he struck out a ton of guys. And he's just been horribly unlucky. Like, you look at the top guys, everyone 9K and over, there's all something going against them. What's one thing that's going against Gilbert?
Well, I mean, he saw a big price jump. I'll give you that. And then the price was probably wrong.
I'm just looking at the numbers. Like, what about his situation has you worried? Like, that's it.
It's a nice ballpark there. Texas is a pretty putrid lineup. A lot of their power has been zapped, but the absence of Gallo, basically it's Garcia and nobody else from a power perspective. Pretty good as far as walks, 7% walks this season. That's solid. The Ks aren't spectacular, but they're good at 28%. Allows a few too many fly balls, but again, against this lineup, I'm not very scared about that. Fly balls this season, 41.7%. Just trying to see if he's got a big split. I don't think he does. Yeah, his splits are basically neutral that we've seen so far, more or less. Yeah, he's fine. And they have technically,
he's fine. He's great.
If
he's
you look at
play on the slate.
If you look at what 538's got 5%. Seattle still thinks they can get get a chance there to playoff spot. So they're going to give him a decent leash. Of course, he's not going to have the same leash as a guy like Scherzer, but nobody is in the slate. And Nola, both those guys, you can make the argument can go them throw like 115 or 110 tonight. Feels like an important game for both those teams with their aces in the mound. Well, I guess maybe Wheeler's the ace of Philadelphia. I'm not really sure. Wheeler's probably the Cy Young, right? Is he the favorite there? I assume he is.
I don't know.
I assume Wheeler's the Cy Young as of right now. Especially if Philadelphia happens to win that, we'll at least get in the playoffs, or the only way to do that is they win the division. You mentioned Zach Gallen, and he's an interesting one as well. Who wants to pick in this San Francisco team? They are, I guess, pesky is the word, but they have plenty of power, like a ton of power this year. Surprising a lot of people. They got Belt back as well. Crawford's back too.
There's a lot of guys in contention for the Cy Young: Bueller, Wheeler, Woodruff, Gausman, Burns.
I think it's Wheeler that's most likely.
That's most, honestly, Bueller's not far behind him. It's pretty much a coin toss between those two.
I wonder if is Scherzer in the conversation? If he crushes,
I think he's been injured too much. He's not even really on the board as the top 5, just because those other guys have been so good.
Do you have any? I know you have any bets tonight for the people? The SAO, the scores and odds. You were telling me pre-show. Besides your terrible movie takes, you were talking about how you've been hot. What, 11 and 1 your last 12 bets or something like that. What do you have for the people tonight, or is that behind the paywall there at Scores and Odds?
I mean, it's generally behind the paywall.
Give him one. Let's give him a taste. What's your favorite?
Rodriguez over 3.5. I think that's still at plus 120 over on DraftKings. Over 3.5 strikeouts. Dude's been pretty decent in his one start. Don't know how long he'll go into the game, but based off his last one, wouldn't be surprised if he goes long enough. You're getting plus odds on it. Like every other one, I bet like Aiken under 4.5 Ks. It went down to minus 190. Patino under 5.5 Ks. It went down to 160, minus 160. Lynch might still be at the same odds. There you go. Daniel Lynch.
You said Rodriguez at 3.5. Is that Erod at 3.5, or did you just
C-Rod?
C-Rod.
Chris is even still pitching.
Oh, Chris Rodriguez. Okay, so he's pitching in the Angels game. Yeah. We don't call Chris Rodriguez C-Rod, do we? I don't think so. But okay, sure, it works. But that threw me off there for a second against Toronto. 3.5 is I have not looked at that game, so I have no take. I don't even know how deep he can go, because that's a 6:00 game that goes off, I think, like in 15 minutes or so. That's the first half of a doubleheader there. That Toronto lineup looks pretty standard. I'm missing somebody. Looks like it's basically about right there.
Oh, now it's minus 130 on it. So everything moved 50 points. Everything I bet moved 50 points already.
You got to pounce is the moral of the story on those.
You got to sign up for scores and odds so you can get them as soon as they pop on the board. The most ridiculous one yesterday, I think I was talking about you. Who's the guy for Minnesota that was pitching? I can't even remember.
You middled it, right? You put a bunch of money on 1.5 over and a bunch of money on 2.5 under. And
it wasn't a bunch of money. It was how much they would let me bet.
Well,
But yeah, like I got the under at minus 120 at 2.5, and then the over at plus 120 at 1.5.
Two different sites, obviously.
No, same site, 5 minutes apart. Sometimes they move the line when I bet.
Oh,
like I don't know.
And then he got his
correlates
face punched
to me
in
for a bad line, but it's happened 5 times now in the last week.
Is that your first time middling it?
First time doing a perfect no risk middle.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing better than a no risk middle. Like just sweating if he's going to come back for the third is just beautiful.
He got pummeled in both the first and the second. I wasn't sure he was going to come back in the first, but he did come back and he took a beating for 2 innings. But that worked out for you nicely, obviously. Let's talk about Gallon. He's pretty cheap on DK. Gallon's a guy I loved last year, and he had some arm problems. And we talk about facing San Francisco, not an ideal matchup. Plenty of power on the San Fran side, and he does have walk issues. And this San Francisco team, besides having a lot of power, they'll walk a lot too. 10.2% collectively. Wade at 11%, Belt at 13%, Posey 11%. Their first 6 guys projected lineup we're looking at are all guys that walk at least at 9.4% as far as the clip. But it's kind of baked into the price, and you got to roster 2 starting pitchers, and especially if you're going to be bold enough to not play Scherzer, and we already had that conversation. Who else are you going to roster? Gallon is in the conversation for you.
Yeah, I think Gallon's the top second option now for me, at least over on DraftKings. It's just his price tag. Like, I have a feeling a lot of people are going to go with Odorizzi, like matchup versus Colorado, but he really just has been great. You're getting a $600 discount for Gallon, and he's got the strikeout upside. He's gone over 100 pitches in each of his last 2, maybe 3 starts. I can't remember the exact number, but I think he got up to 108 in the last one. I know because I was 109 because I was sweating the under on his K prop. Ended up hitting.
Take him out, pinch it.
Oh, it was. I had a same game parlay because FanDuel offered like risk-free same game parlay, so I had 3 things, and all 2 of the 3 had hit, and the last one was just Gallons under on his K prop. And I'm like, just come on, just take him out of the game. Darn, they let him go out for an extra like 18 pitches or 10 pitches in the 5th, and took him out after 2 hits were given up. So, but yeah, Gallon is just like, he's good. He's got good stuff. Like the walks are obviously concerned. The implied team total for San Francisco might keep ownership suppressed enough on him, but you look at this slate and there's really not other great options. It's him. You go down to J.A. Happ. A lot of projection systems are
the A
spitting
is
out.
silent.
I mean, huh?
The A is silent, but go ahead.
Is it?
He's only been in the league like 27 years, but yes, the A, it's J Happ, but continue.
It's J.A. Happ.
Well, no, okay. If you're just
you
reading
just call
it,
him Night Shyamalan? M. Shyamalan?
No, he's known as M.
name.
Night. Yeah, J.K. I mean, yeah.
Real name Jordan Anthony Happ.
Yeah, there you go.
That's not actually true. I don't know.
R.A. Dickey is Robert Allen. There's a fun fact for you.
I did know that.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what J.A. Happ's actual name is.
I bet projection systems are spitting him out just because he's super cheap, and in theory, he's got a good matchup.
Wait, did I get that right? His name is James Anthony.
Well, I mean, there you go. That was the chalk, though, if you're just guessing.
Is it? I don't know.
James is a pretty chalky name, I think.
Yeah, and Anthony's like one of the... James Andrew, I think, would have been the chalk.
Yeah. Talk me about Happ, because
he's
he's
trash.
just
Don't
cheap.
blame. I get he is cheap, and he has been striking at guys at a pretty decent clip for a little while. Like I think the last month, if I remember correctly. I don't know. I'm just basing that off of his strikeout props hitting the over for most of the last month. But like you look at his overall season numbers, terrible. Yeah, actually the last month, 13.6% strikeout rate, 5.69 exit. The thing that's going for him is he is playing a team that just does not have a ton of power. He's been good versus lefties so far in the season. Like there's 2 of them in the lineup, which helps. it's a good ballpark for preventing home runs. And guess what? His biggest problem is he gives up more barrels than anyone, literally anyone, I think, in the league. He's currently leading in the clubhouse. He's just been bad. And like outside of Reynolds and Hayes, though, who's going to take him yard? That's his problem is home runs. And there's 2 guys that can hit a home run. That's it. He makes it through those 2 guys. He's fine. It's a perfectly adequate strikeout lineup. Everything kind of points towards like, if there's a spot where he's not going to get destroyed, this is probably the spot. But he's still J.A. Happ, James Anthony Happ, as you call him.
I mean, I wouldn't say he's still J.A. Happ, but he's still Happ. He's still J. Happ. But
I mean, honestly, I'd rather go with, I don't want to because I actually have some interest in Seattle, but Allard, he's got all right K stuff. He's not going to go that late into the game, but he's going up against a very high strikeout Seattle team. He's going to come in at very low ownership. He's 6.4 K. If you need to pay down and you don't want to play Gallon, which I just plan on going pretty much all in on Gallon if I can, then Allard is just the guy that you probably want to go with. He's a middle.
You're okay with that San Fran matchup, or it's just a matter of like there's not a lot of options and he's pretty cheap?
There's not options. Gallon's good and he's cheap. You get 100 pitches and you get a 30% K rate. Don't really care about too much else at 7.1 K. Anytime I can get
McKenzie's interesting in that area. McKenzie, because like he's electric. If you watch him when he's on, he looks so good. He's still young, a bit of a project, still kind of figuring things out, and like he's a guy I think is be really good in a couple of years, and like he has moments, but you don't really want to pick in this Oakland team necessarily. I'm just saying, like as far as actual K rates too, if I kind of look at it as far as this slate, I think he's top 5 amongst the arms going tonight.
Yeah, he's not far behind Gallon. I think
27.4%.
Not far behind Gallon. He's not far behind Gilbert. The problem is over the last 30 days, you know what his K rate is?
Well, the walks are also a problem, and Oakland can be patient. But what is his K rate in the last month? What, 20%?
16.5.
Yeah, again, like I said, there's flashes. He has you watch him sometimes like, wow, this guy's gonna be great, and then also he just falls apart other times too. Just he's young, he's whatever, figuring stuff out.
Yeah, and I think that he's been throwing a lot less breaking balls. I could be wrong there, but he's throwing a little bit less curve balls over the last month, which is why his K rate is down, but his walk rate is down significantly. Yeah, it looks like he just dropped the changeup out of his repertoire over the last month, which is kind of done him like good and bad because he's not getting nearly as many strikeouts, but his control has been way better. So yeah, like that's fine. I'd go Gallon.
But the same vein as Happ, like you don't really want to play it, but he's cheap and the matchup's good and he's not great. I don't want to play Odorizzi, and I think like projection models are spitting him out because he's pretty cheap.
They're spitting him out, which is why I'm trying to get off of him. Like I'm trying to go.
He's also bad. Is that concerning that he's just not good at?
Yes, it's very concerning.
Like he can't go deep. He's going to go. You're begging for 5, possibly. You're thrilled if he gets 6, but you're begging for 5.
Have you seen his numbers over the last month?
They're not great.
50% fly balls, 50% hard contact, 11% walk rate, 16% K rate, 7 xFIP.
But the Rockies is the counterpoint is but the Rockies.
Yes, I get that.
Yeah,
I absolutely get that, but I don't care. Like,
I don't think I'm playing him either.
So bad.
I don't want to play him. Like it's just like a guy I don't want to play. I understand why my models are saying he's playable, and it's the Rockies, and he's reasonably cheap. And Houston traded for him, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he's one of those guys that got lucky the first half of the season, and regression finally caught up with him, like kind of a reverse Erod. And we kind of glossed over it. Shamanaya, like he's been super consistent. I know we got hit around last time, but if you watch that game, and that was super tilting.
Yeah, I'm not buying into that game. He's been fantastic over the last month. The problem is that, like, I'd just rather go Gilbert.
Well, you can play Manaya and Gilbert together, and just not play.
I could. That's not a problem. I can absolutely do that. But
I was just saying the last game. I think it's just worth noting. Like he had like a check swing that wasn't called for an out, and then the next pitch was a strike, and they called it a ball. And like basically, this guy got like so many chances, and maybe I'm just tilting my face off still, but and then it's like 3 or 4 consecutive hits, and an inning just imploded on him. So like whatever. And also with San Diego, second time out, tough lineup, obviously. I'm willing to forgive him. And if you go before that, he crushed San Diego, good against Seattle, fine against Cleveland and Houston, mostly good, nice ballpark. Well, tonight's in Cleveland, it's not as great, but it doesn't suppress strikeouts like Oakland does. We do have the 2 good hitters for Cleveland are there. Franmil and Ramirez are both playing, but otherwise, besides that, is there anybody else? Even Fran will offer some strikeouts. So it's kind of a bit pricey, but he also has the ceiling of putting him up 30. So there's the Benaya sales pitch. I don't know what else is worth talking about as far as pitchers. I think Nola's kind of sort of something interesting in tournaments, especially MME, like at a big contest. If you're going for ceiling, I don't want to pick on the Dodgers. Nobody does. But he has the ability to strike out like 9 or 10. Like very few people. Like his upside is as high as anybody in this slate.
I mean, just so tough with that lineup.
It is, but it's not as bad with bets out. It's not as scary.
Yeah,
Scary.
that's definitely an upgrade. But it's just so gosh darn tough to play anyone versus the Dodgers. And Noel's had last 10 games, he's had some real stinker outings, some stinker outings.
We can poke holes in everybody in this slate.
Poke holes in Gilbert.
Well, we don't really know what he is yet. Like we think he's going to be good, obviously, and he's been.
We do know what he is. We know he's good.
Small sample. How about that? Cardi would say it's a small sample size, but he's been good.
I mean, small sample size in the major. How there's numbers in the minors.
He was a prospect. He wasn't, and look, he wasn't good against Tampa. He wasn't really good against Oakland. He hasn't been like this in incredible form. He hasn't pitched 6 innings and all the starts but 2. There's some holes poked, and I'm not here to besmirch. I like him too.
And he's still averaging over 23 points per outing that time frame.
What? I mean, I don't know. Math is hard. Give me the summary as far as arms.
Gilbert, Gallen, go.
That's it?
No. You can play any of the top tier guys, but Gilbert is my clear favorite. Scherzer is going to have a lot of ownership. He's going to have an extreme hitters umpire. Still fine with playing him. I'm trying to find ways off him, but I don't know based on the lineups that I'm stacking if I'm going to really have that much of a possibility to do that. Gray, fine going up against Atlanta, but again, not a great spot. Manea going up against Cleveland, fine. Prefer Scherzer. Alex Wood, a little bit up and down. He's come into this game in not great form. I don't want to play him. Projected models are going to be spitting him out, so I'm not going to play him. Erod, tough matchup versus Tampa Bay. You're fine playing him, but realistically, all those guys are just kind of fine. The one good one is Gilbert.
I like both sides of that Erod game, especially on DK where Cruz I think is too cheap. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's talk about some of our favorite stacks tonight. And again, this is one of those slates where I don't love anything. It's a full slate. Everybody's playing. 2 games, obviously not on FanDuel with the 7 gamers, the Toronto game and the Cubs game. But favorite stack tonight, I think the consensus is going to be the White Sox. I think it's what we have as well. That's my favorite, but like that's everybody's favorite. It's only going to be so much as far as ownership because it's got to get spread out with so many options. Is that your favorite? And you don't care about ownership, especially if you're going from Scherzer. Like you can play your favorite stack because I presume that's going to be like the route people go. One of the
I am playing a lot of Chicago, and I think I'm playing 5 stacks on the slate. Like there's plenty of good ones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to the ones that are under-owned is my plan. Like I'm going with the stacks that I don't think are drawing nearly enough ownership. And it's just, I think they're kind of the right way to go. Knowing that some of the, like it's been pretty consistent for the last few weeks where the top projected stacks really aren't drawing much ownership. And like on today, the White Sox, they're going to be owned. I'm updating ownership right now. But they aren't going to be nearly enough owned in my opinion. Like we have Eloy projected for 20%, Moncada for 13. Everyone else is not really that heavily owned. I mean, Robert is super cheap. He's super good and he's unowned. Like we have him projected at 7% ownership. I think that's 3% lower than it will be. I think he'll get into double digits, but barely. It's too low of ownership for him at 3.4K. Like Engel batting near the top, he's not great, but still probably too low of a price tag. Yeah. I plan on using quite a bit of them. And then these other lineups that are just not going to draw ownership, who have should I just get into some of my favorite stacks?
Yeah, go ahead. I just want to say Griffin Jacks there starting for Minnesota.
Hot trash.
You were talking about Hap having like this, most barrels in all of baseball. Griffin Jacks hasn't pitched enough to qualify 32 innings, but in his 32 innings, he's yielded 12.7% barrels, which is second highest in the slate. Again, Daniel Lynch is the number 1 guy. We'll talk about the Yankees in a second. A lot of barrels as well.
Daniel Lynch is an interesting one because a lot of what happened to him was because he was tipping pitches. Like, it was very clear that he was tipping pitches. Like, he had a decent swinging strike rate and like just kept giving up bombs. Like, the only way that can happen most likely is he was just letting guys know, because they saw everything coming and he was getting taken out of the yard a lot. So Daniel Lynch, I don't know if I'd go over his overall season numbers. Again, I'm taking the under 4.5 strikeouts for his pitcher prop, but Lynch, I don't know if you can fully trust that, because there was a two or three game outing where they think it's when they put Bubba in there. He was just not throwing good stuff, on top of like letting them know exactly what was happening. That's why they sent him down to the minors to figure that out.
I just went ahead and dropped the weather. Kevin Roth, chief meteorologist, of course, has just updated that. There is orange yellow in Baltimore, so be aware of that. That's somewhat concerning if you're playing on the Milwaukee. Are you upset about that? Is that there are some interesting hitters? Yeah. The Baltimore Detroit game, two teams that aren't sexy by any means, but
they're sexy to me.
Yeah, I mean they're more sexy from a DFS perspective, not from a like good baseball team perspective. Mets have yellow, orange. You guys can read this on our own, but and we're going to talk about this stuff as if it all plays out. But what you want to do is you want to watch Crunch Time. How do you get Crunch Time? Well, you get $10 off your first month. We can go ahead and drop that link in chat for the people as well. $10 off your first month of premium. Just one sport. You just want baseball, have at it, enjoy yourself. Or if you want all the sports, especially with football, NFL, college football, baseball, basketball, hockey, MMA, golf, esports. I'm sure I missed something. Everything with the exception of NASCAR. $10 off either way, the combo platter as well. Yeah. So just Roth will be on Crunch Time later today, and they'll give you guys the update. They actually gave away Crunch Time for free yesterday, and I think it's a really small slate on Thursday. Don't quote me on it. I think Crunch Time is free as well on Thursday too. So there you go. Good times for the people there on the YouTube. That's the reason why you hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. Well, talk to me about, assume Detroit, Baltimore is good to go, but talk to me about which side do you like? Both?
Yep.
Which do you prefer?
I prefer Detroit. I prefer Detroit by a decent margin. Aiken's bad. He's just hot trash, but it's going to be hot over there. It's good at hitting weather. Like, Detroit actually has some decent bats, like that have a whole lot of pop that are not going to be terribly high owned. I mean, Haas is super expensive, but like, I don't care. I'm playing him. I get a catcher that has a good chance of hitting a bomb going up against Aiken, who's one of the worst pitchers in the league. I mean, over the last 30 days, he has almost a 7 xFIP. On the season, he's only striking guys out at a sub 20% clip, 5.31 xFIP. Bad bullpen behind him, probably only going to go a few innings, probably going to get beat up, but you can throw Grossman in there. You can throw Scope in there, the mouthwash, as you like to call him. Miggy's been off and on throughout the course of the season, but he can hit the ball of the yard. Like, Aiken has some pretty drastic splits, only striking out 14% of batters from the right side of the plate and giving up a 40% hard contact and 40% fly ball rate. It's a perfect spot to hit home runs, especially for these righties. And Haas, Scope, Grossman all have a ton of pop, and you can throw any of these other guys in there. No one's outside of those guys are very expensive in the lineup. You can throw any of these guys in here. Goodrum is in a great spot, outfield or shortstop eligible, 4% owned, and he's 3.2K. Like, this is a perfect spot for these Tiger bats. Like, cannot be much better of a situation than an atrocious pitcher and a terrible bullpen behind him in a great ballpark that's hot with wind blowing out.
On DK, Milwaukee Cubs, it's a 7-inning game. Huge total for a 7-inning game, 8. That's because if this game does go, and there are weather issues, if the game does somehow go, and this is a super small sample thing, but 21 games, previous weather, we see a bump of 91.7% in homers and 40% in runs, 35% in ERA. 91 degrees as far as the temperature, and basically dead center 12-mile-per-hour winds. And then the Toronto game as well. Some actually pretty decent prices for Toronto players, but again, 7-inning game on a full slate. I don't think I'm playing anybody in those games. We'll see. Are you
I'm not
just
going to argue
those
with
out?
Like stacking up either the sides of the Cubs or even taking one offs, because they can obviously hit one out of the ballpark with it being 91 with wind blowing out.
Yeah,
we know what Wrigley is.
Yeah, but also there's weather issues too. And again, like that's one of those deals like last night. I'm sure last night I had some Milwaukee stuff, but my Milwaukee stuff was 5 guys. I even had Peralta as well too, and I said
exactly that was I threw in one lineup last night. I didn't like the slate, and it was a full Milwaukee stack with Peralta. I just lost everything. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean that's risk reward. You know what you get yourself into. So as far as tonight, you said those guys are still in play in theory, and it's kind of an all or nothing. And the Toronto side, would you be interested in that game at all against Suarez or Stripling? And I don't think I'm interested. It's just too much good stuff out there, or like at least better stuff, distinctly better stuff. The White Sox, did you have a favorite play as far as that lineup? Are you just playing it up and down, or what?
I mean, if we're not including ownership, it's Eloy. If we're including ownership, it's Robert.
Yeah, Robert's still 2.7 on FanDuel. If
3-4 on DraftKings, like I want to say 8 over on Yahoo.
$8. Jeez, that's the one above the floor. Moncada is still is he still 2.9 Moncada on FanDuel? I know it's still really cheap.
Yeah, he's real cheap on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, he's priced about where he should be at 4.9.
What I mentioned the Erod game, and I don't really want to pick on Erod, but I think just some of the prices, like Nelly Cruz in Fenway versus a lefty, and he probably faces 2 bullpen arms, like, you know, probably gets 2 at-bats in the bullpen. Erod's a guy that rarely goes beyond 6. Rosarena is a leadoff hitter on the road in a good ballpark at 4.3 K. Just a skill set. That's a pretty good price. Did you have any interest as far as the Tampa side? It's one of those both sides where, I mean, I'm probably not going to fully stack it, but it's like a little mini stack. I'm okay with it. Your thoughts?
I'd rather go with the Baltimore side. Like Patino, not great. Like he's bad versus lefties. He's just straight up bad versus lefties. The problem is there's only 3 of them in that lineup, and I like all 3 of those lefties. Like they're all very good bats. They're good bats to target. I'm going to have some mini stacks of just the lefties with Duran being cheap, Devers, and then Cordero. Like I'd rather not use him at the end of the lineup, but it is a wraparound stack. Although I'm not going to have any problem with playing in these other guys. Like he's been horrible versus lefties. Just absolute trash all season long. He's giving up a 383 WOBA, 170 ISO. Huge amount of fly balls, huge amount of hard contact. That's not going to bode well over in Fenway. And he doesn't strike out lefties at all. He has a 16% walk rate, 13% K rate versus lefties. Like,
2 questions before we turn it over to Devin. Again, if you guys haven't got your question in, you guys want us to talk about something, we're happy to do so. Something we want us to elaborate on further. This guy or that guy, overarching slate questions. Devin is compiling them. He's going to join the show in just a minute or so. But I'm curious. I think we should talk about the Yankees. I want your Yankee take. And the other one I think is a little bit interesting, especially if Happ gets some ownership. Like I hate this ballpark, but like Park is just an interesting little punt. He's got some speed to him.
The mini stack with Reynolds, Hayes, and Park is not the worst idea in the world.
Yeah, that's, and I think Stallings is okay too. I mean, Alfred's a flat out punt, but like, you know, Stallings as a catcher is decent at 3.5. Obviously, that ballpark is not ideal, but Happ is, you know, he's certainly attackable. And if you want to call it leverage, if you want to call it, if you think Happ's going to garner at least some ownership, which I don't know, what do we have it at 10, 15%, give or take, it's off the dome. Thoughts as far as we like the Pirates a little bit. How about the Yankees? Let's focus on them in Kansas City.
I mean, the Yankees are fine, even though Lynch is probably no longer throwing or tipping pitches. He's still not a great pitcher, and the Yankees are just very good. It's 92 degrees over in KC, wind blowing out, like solid hitting weather, and these bats are just good. I plan on having a few Yankee stacks in there. They're not my favorite. White Sox are my favorite. Detroit is my second favorite, probably for tournaments. But Yankees are not far behind. I don't know. It's an interesting. What do you think about the Mets, though?
Yeah, I mean,
Alonso's an incredible player. There's no argument about that. He's 4.2K.
That's not a secret though, because especially on DK where he's 4.2K, he's your cash game first baseman, and he's going to be heavily owned. Espino is a fly ball guy as well too, and I hate that ballpark. It's a bad ballpark for run scoring, but a big total for a home team over 5 there. But like I think it's a full stack thing because as Alonso as a one-off is going to be popular, and maybe that's not the best idea in tournaments if you want to be.
I don't mind a mini stack. Like the main thing is you're trying to pay it for Scherzer, you're trying to pay it for Gilbert, you're trying to pay it for Manaea, you're trying to pay it for all those guys. If you are going to do that, like Alonso, you get a just absolute stud, and then you can get like McNeil, JD, like all those guys for like fairly cheap price tags. So, I mean, I have a 4-man stack and I have a 3-man stack of the Mets right now. So I'm
By the way,
I like
myself, yourself, Kirk Dees, and Cheese is Good, Dave Potts, we did a consensus rankings today, or did a rankings today. All of us, every single one of us has Alonso first on DK. So like that's not going to sneak up on anybody. I think a way to be different is spending up on Abreu a little bit, unless you're stacking up Chicago. Obviously, I don't think it'd be terribly popular. Voit, we saw him come back last night and bang out a homer. And Matt Olson. Talk about how much I like McKenzie's skill set, but Olson, just tremendous power, having an awesome season yet again. Do you have a pivot away from Alonso, or are you just going to say Alonso's my guy and that's that?
Alonso's my guy, and that's that.
All right. Anything else before Devin comes on? You got anything else you want to get off your mind, or just fire up some
No,
questions?
I'm running my everything, and as of right now, I might have some Scherzer, but that's just because it's so hard to build my stacks without leaving money on the board.
Let us know if anything interesting pops up. I'm kind of curious. Oh, thank you for dressing up. You have sleeves today. Congratulations on that.
Shirt is 10 years old.
Grant's got the right idea, though. You set the bar low, and then people are impressed.
Yeah. All of a sudden, he's got sleeves. It's like
That's what I always did with women. Worked out great.
Life is about expectations.
There you go.
What's up, Devin? Are you okay? Have you since come down? My never have seen.
I had my little tilt session behind scenes here, but we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be good. We do have
didn't break your computer, so I'm proud of you.
Yeah, right. We have some questions. Stacks game we're gonna start with. Tony in chat was asking to do some around the horn quickly. I don't know if maybe we want to touch on that real quick before we get to the stacks game.
No,
I could do it really quick if you want me to.
Do it, Dean.
Yeah, Grant said he liked Haas. He's pretty expensive, 5.4K. I like Garver at 4.3 as well. If Gomes cracks the lineup as a cheapie, I'm good with that. Sal Perez, of course, a nice tournament play as well. We talked about first base, Pete Alonso, 4.2K and DK, that's just too cheap. We actually just covered first, so I'll just skip that. Cesar Hernandez was a little bit interesting. Now he's down to the 8 hole, so he falls back a little bit. No Polanco as well. He's out of the lineup. So second kind of stinks. Edmonds leading off. He's okay. I don't know what to do with second. India is really good, but 5.1K for India, short for
Castro.
Cincinnati. Have at it. Who do you like?
Castro and McNeil. I don't like them either of them, but they're cheap.
Yeah, and third base, like again, this is kind of speaks to the entire slate. Third base, I guess Moncada is the best play. Donaldson been in and out of the lineup, and that's kind of a dead team, but that price does seem too cheap. Devers is a good spend up. I do agree with that. Arenado versus a lefty. I know it's not an ideal situation as far as the ballpark, but we're not afraid of Steven Brault. I wish I had the money for Anderson. I'm going to try to make money for Anderson, but Tim Anderson at 6K seems kind of pricey. Park is a full punt. I'm okay with that. Correa in the middle at 4.1K. That is a respectable price. And we talked about Eloy. Castellanos, 4.4K. Still too cheap on DK. Robert, too cheap. Santander is a good little punt at 2.6K. The Houston guys, as always, Alvarez, Tucker, seem too cheap on DK. And I think Nelly Cruz is too cheap as well. I know it's a tough matchup, but, the monster, lefty, yada, yada. You got anything, Grant?
Nope.
Dean, that was impressive. That was on the
level.
level.
I've never seen you actually do something on time.
Just pick him up and then we drop him down.
I mean, like, look, I don't just like wake up and at 5:19 and say, all right, let's do a show.
I mean, you had yourself queued up, ready to go, right? You were waiting for somebody to ask for around the horn.
Always be ready.
Let's get some stacks. I added a few on here, but we'll get some from chat as well. White Sox, Grant.
5.
Dean.
Yeah, 4.7. It's the best stack on the board.
And we're gonna go into lightning round. Toronto mini stack, Dean.
1.5. Like those 7 innings really bother me. Lightning round.
Baltimore.
4.
Weather pending. 3.
Thought we'd get a 5 on that one from Grant. KC.
2.
Yeah, 2.5.
St. Louis.
1. And I'm alone on this, I think. I think people are playing from St. Louis.
I'm okay with Goldie. I'm okay with Goldie O. Edmonds really cheap as well, too. I mean, and Brault's whatever, and they're locked in for 9, but the ballpark stinks. 2.5, but I'm not enthused.
I might have some of St. Louis. Detroit. Dean.
5.
Yeah, that's a big number. But, 4. I like it. Again, weather pending, assuming it's a go. Roth gives us at least a yellow thumb up as far as
if he gives that a thumbs down, then I have to completely redo every single lineup.
Mets, Dean.
3, middle of the road.
4 mini, 3 full stack.
All right. B Joel wants to know DK Cash SP2.
I think it's Gilbert. I think I think it's Scherzer and Gilbert.
All right. Stan, any interest in Carrasco for tournaments?
No, pitch count worries me.
Pitch count, like I mean, you're supposed to get a bump of 15 every single start, and like in the second start, he didn't get the bump, and he was still okay. But the Mets are in a playoff run, but I don't know they're going to bump him today. I have no idea. If they would, sure. I think his total was with 5.5 K prop, and I wanted to ask you about that, Grant. You have a thought on that?
It's pretty close to. I think there's heavy juice on the under, if I remember correctly, and so I wasn't willing to eat that juice. I think there's roughly 40% chance he hits the over on that.
I love juice. That touches on Aaron's question as well.
No bees in the juice.
Mize.
Speaking of Brendan Fraser.
Mize 2.
Yeah, two. He's okay, but
All right.
especially weather.
Killing from chat wants to know what's a good low ownership pick on tonight's slate. Let's give a one pitcher, one hitter.
Is that a stack or a player? Yeah. I will say Aaron Nola is not completely insane. I know that's good. I'm going down with it. I'm probably gonna have one lineup with him. I'm not playing a ton, but nobody's playing him.
Hey, I had Carlos Hernandez a little bit yesterday, so
there it is.
Aaron DK Cash. Is it Alonso, LeMahieu, or Olsen?
Alonso, unless you just have the money, then it's Olsen.
All right. Burhan wants to know DK 3 entry max. Are you playing Dodgers and Rockies stacks, or are you not stacking?
I'm not playing either of those stacks, and I am stacking.
Yeah.
Play Detroit and Baltimore.
Yeah, rewind to our stacks game there, Burhan. K-Town's finest, DK Turney, Stripling versus a weak Angels team. What are your thoughts?
No.
We don't know what that lineup's going to be, but it's probably not going to be good. I wonder if Ohtani's playing the first game. He is. They can always DH him, I suppose, and they maybe DH him in the first game, but Stripling is
9.5K now.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I had him last time. He was good last time, but I can't get excited about it. It's probably going to be a good matchup. Like, lineup's probably going to stink.
And that just about takes us out to all the questions. So, Dean, why don't you take us home? And while we're waiting for the next show that you're on, you can go watch Jumanji.
Who's on? Devin, there's so many movies you probably haven't seen that I will go 1v1 if you want. I'm happy to see a movie that you recommend. I hope you don't leave a Jumanji. Give me something like this better. But like,
I was just gonna say, ignore the CGI.
Say Frozen.
That's great.
Hey, let's go some homers, because last time out, it's been a while. You can't take the victory lap when it happens on Friday, but I gave 3 out. I was 3 for 3 on homers on Friday.
Well, let's give homers and some prop picks too.
Oh, did you have any prop picks? Well, great.
Oh yeah. So over on Prize Picks, we didn't talk about we did not talk about Mariners much, but I do like them. It's a heat advisory over in Seattle, and that is an open air dome. So France over 7.5, Seager over 7, Haniger over 8. I mean, it's not a bad spot for the righties. It gives up a lot of bombs, and France and Haniger take out of the ballpark, and Seager's just good.
And if you want to sign up for Prize Picks today, use the promo code Grinders, GRINDERS, with your first deposit. 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Grant, give me 3 dudes that are going to bang out some homers, not all on the same team.
Haas, Hayes, Haniger.
Man, I like that one too. I think Voit goes yard again. I got Robert. Robert's going to hit one out tonight. Luis Robert, that is. I should be more specific. And Brian Reynolds hits a homer too. How about that? You like those, Grant? Does it work for you?
That too? Did you get 3?
I said Voit as well. You might have missed that one.
Yeah.
And
they're not as good as mine.
While we're at it,
all mine started with an H.
While we're at it, we got to get the mush play, Dean, and then we got to close out.
Who is the mush play? I mean, the mush play is probably like Blue Jays.
Yeah, I don't know if you mushed anything. What don't you like today? Because then you know who to stack. You like the Mariners?
No.
All right, Mariners of the mush.
There we go.
Who's on next there, Devin? Who's coming up in
Cardi and Justin, STL, as you know him.
Cardi's going to talk about playing J-Hap, isn't he? Like Odorizzi.
Yes.
I feel like he's going to
talk about those 2 being the best values on the slate.
Oh, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. Well, if you guys have premium, stay tuned for that. It'll be a good conversation as long with Kevin Roth. Kevin Roth will tell you guys what's going on weather-wise, and it's pretty clear there's a lot going on, so we need some clarity on some games. That said, that was Devin, that was Grant, that was baseball, I was Dean. We're out of here. Oh! Hey, kids.